We're here at the Splined Hub in Oundle to celebrate two true motoring icons. The Jaguar E-Type, which, as we know, turned 60 this year, and also the legendary Triumph Trophy. Now, we've got two experts to tell you more about these iconic vehicles.
To me, the E-Type is something which will never be repeated in terms of automotive design. It was designed and built in a time when aerodynamics was early in its development, and it really needed very clever people to build something that looked good and was good in terms of aerodynamics and every other way. Couple that with the fact that the powertrain, the engine and gearbox are actually relatively simple, very reliable, developed in the 1940s, but still current until 1987. It just shows you how enduring that engineering was. So for us, it's a product which we can start from a wreck with provenance, and we can go through to building a very reliable, warranted car. I think the E-Type's become an icon because it originally arrived on the scene when everybody was driving around in Ford Anglias and Morris Minors, and right at the end of a period of austerity after the war. And I think you consider 1961, it must have been like something had landed from space. 150 miles an hour on the new motorways. It was an absolutely incredible machine. And even now, driving an E-Type, it is no slouch.
I suppose all of us tend to go through the nostalgia bit, and this bike is exactly the self-same bike that I used to ride in the 60s when I used to cowboy around the streets in Coventry, as we used to call it. And yet it was sort of the badge of the then, in my case, Longford Rocker. I was in a position at one stage where I got to ride a lot of the modern day bikes and so on and so forth, but to me, my roots were old bikes, and they're more challenging, not just in riding, but upkeep and stuff like that. And that's another aside to old bikes and my passion for it. These are more demanding than a modern day bike. For instance, you would probably brake 3 days earlier than what you would on a modern day bike, because the brakes they're not very good. It's the history of British engineering as it was then. This is not dissimilar to the Bonneville, which is an icon in itself, but this is basically the single car version that was produced predominantly for the American market, i.e. now the so-called desert sled. And the International 6-day Enduro, which Steve McQueen took part on one of these.
So as a driving car, the E-Type has surpassed itself really in terms of my expectations. I expected to get in an E-Type and think, yeah, this is good for its age, but it's actually good in its own right now. You can get in an E-Type and drive it as quickly as you like. Obviously, you're dealing with old school technology in terms of tyres, but the rubber that we put on the cars now is a modern compound in an old shape. So they grip okay, they drive really well. The rear axle design is fantastic on them. So as a driving experience, it's not raucous, it's not uncomfortable, it's refined, and it's also quick. So really, it's about as good as you could get, given that it's a 60-year-old design, as we all know, because it's the anniversary this year. If you ask me what it was about the E-Type, it's the fact that you can't take a bad photo of one. From every angle, the E-Type, whether it's roadster or coupe, is a fabulous looking car. And let's face it, if you look back at your car, when you walk away from it, you know it's the right thing.
If I go back to the 60s, it's bikes and nothing else. And then, because I was, a resident of Coventry and still am, and it's where the E-Type was manufactured, along with a lot of other Jaguars, The E-Type relatively was a pretty cheap vehicle to own, and again it was, I'm not saying it was a cult thing or a status symbol, but it was just, you know, it's, in the day you're a boy racer, whether it's in the 60s or whether it's now, and the boy racer had an E-Type. There weren't the Golfs and stuff like that around, but to say which one I would prefer, there is no preference. If I was to be forced into erring to one way, it'd be the bike.